Picture. Now you want to audience to turn on.
I think it's just frustration.
That's
I'll call this meeting to order and welcome everybody here with us tonight. And as we begin this meeting, I'll ask John Harrison to be with us in order of prayer.
You bow your head, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today. We give thanks for this gracious day and this wonderful opportunity to do your will. We ask that you continue to watch over all our boys and girls and people in this room and families as we approach the holiday season. Thank you for the special gifts that you provide us each and every day. And dear Lord, we ask that you help us remember the backstory of the reason for this season and the true meaning of Christmas. Please guide us and lead us to help us make the best Christian decisions for these young men and women each and every day. In your name we pray all things. Amen.
Entertained to approve the agenda. Motion second, any discussion? Any additions?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I need to amend the agenda to add 4 purchase orders that we had come in. We received our CTA awards today for equipment, and as normal, it is a timeline issue that's essential that we had to put those on the agenda tonight. So if we could go ahead and do that, that will be through Southern Educational Services, and there'll be 4 purchase orders.
Okay, then under executive session, we'll have an item, pending litigation to be informed about, and I'll add that.
Right. Potential.
Potential. Well, I said pending, excuse me, potential litigation, I'm sorry. All those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. I think we've got one item of announcement recognition tonight.
It's a small one. I told them as I passed by a minute ago, I was like, y'all the best behaved coaching group I've ever been around in my life. So I think we need to bring them to the board meeting a lot more. It is without a doubt my pleasure to introduce to you the 2021 AA State Championship coaching staff. Head Coach Tucker Pruitt, I'd like to call you forward, say a few words, and then introduce your coaching staff.
First off, I just want to thank everybody here. I know that in order to be a champion, it takes a lot of people pulling the rope in the same direction. So I definitely want to thank our school board, our administration, for all the things that y'all have given to us and the setup that we have to make this a possibility. My coach is over here. John Gamble's our defensive coordinator, inside linebackers. Coach Gerard Reynolds is our defensive backs coach. Stacy Duckworth is our defensive line. Coach Will Oliver is our outside linebacker. Coach Dan Henderson's been waiting on this for a long time. He coached me when I was playing here, trying to get this trophy here. And then last but not least, Coach Rogers, offensive line, and Coach Williams. Thank you.
We're extremely proud of you and the players. Congratulations. Well deserved. On top of that, I forgot it. We did receive a very nice glass plaque for also being the 2021 Charter System of the Year. For the state of Georgia, that's quite an accomplishment. And, it's because of all the people that are sitting in this room, specifically your administrators, your central office staff, your coaches, your teachers, and all the staff that goes with that. It's a combination effort. And most school systems have to be a charter school system for 7 to 10 years before they can receive that accolade. We did it through. So, very nice Christmas presents, from winning the state championship to becoming the charter system of the year. So, congratulations.
This is only the second school board in the history of this community to be able to tell you congratulations. And it's the first school board in the history of the Ben Hill County School District to be able to tell you congratulations. But we do tell you congratulations. Y'all do a lot of hard work. Not that we're going to do a whole lot about it, but y'all get paid for everything that you do. So we'll try to see what we can do to amend some of that anyway. But the point is the appreciation for what y'all do with these kids. Y'all are fathers to some of those kids and role models, and we appreciate what you do. On top of that, we did receive a little glass thing that we're, again, the 2021 exemplary board. So I guess it should kind of fits in with everything else. I'll give that to you from display.
Congratulations. That would be, that's 6 years in a row. That's pretty impressive when you start looking at school boards and what it takes to become an exemplary school board. There's a lot more to it than what people understand. And it's very impressive and very honored for this school board to have put the effort forward to go above and beyond what is normally required of them to be recognized as exemplary. So thank you for all you do.
All right, moving into the minutes, entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November the 9th.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from November the 9th, 2021.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November the 15th.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor of the minutes of November 15th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Now it's time for public comments.
Mr. Chair, could I slightly interrupt? I know these gentlemen want to stay and hear our business. They don't have anything else to do because they're used to coaching all the time in the evening, but I'd like to dismiss them.
I think we have one more walk in too.
Yeah, that's Shelton Cooper, our quarterback.
Not here.
Yeah, and Coach McCorvey had hip surgery yesterday. So he's not with us, but we definitely don't want to leave him out as well.
Congratulations again. Thank you.
All right, we do have two people want to speak tonight. We'll go in order. Ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes. First, is Sykes McCord.
As far as the coaches go, I'm an old King lineman from early 70s.
Reason you can't walk. Reason you can't walk.
Maybe I was a running back. No, these boys don't know how proud we are. You are. Old linemen, we just love it. I'm proud of the school system, proud of this new school that's going out there. We're going to have to change the alma mater just slightly, and the southern border from the western border. That's okay too. I understand you're looking at trademarking and branding the logo for Fitzgerald High School, and I think that's a great thing. Control it. I think I need to tell you a story about that. It's kind of an interesting story. 1999, Gary Justice was the art teacher at Fitzgerald High School. And one of his duties was to line fields, the athletic field, the football field, primarily. He did the lines, the yard markers, hash markers, and anything that was in the end zone. And he had this idea that he's thinking about the Nike swooshes, and he was trying to work on some type of logo to incorporate that. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Come in the store and let's work on it. And he did. I scanned it in and we worked on it. And it didn't take long. He thought it was going to be 3 or 4 swooshes that go around it. We both ended up 2. That's where it is. He didn't know what to put in the middle. And I said, we'll put the Brock F in the middle, which is that right there. The Brock F, if you remember. Brent Brock was the coach back in the 90s. And so we developed that, and we took it to Coach Brock. And he said, man, I love the logo. But the last place I was at, I changed the logo, and I got fired. Well, about 3 months later, he was looking for a job. Okay. And anyway, so the first group to use the logo, the F logo, was a cross-country team. We printed singlets for them to wear. And enter Robbie Pruitt. And he came in the store right when he signed on, and he saw that logo. He said, do you mind if I put that logo on football helmets? I said, we'd be honored. That was important. So that's what happened. And that's how the logo came about. It leads me to my other concern. Recently, coaches received an email directing them to buy sporting goods, uniforms, and related items from the same company out of Florida by the name of Baker Sports. Here was a sentence, and I want you to listen closely to it, in the email. It says, simply put, anything you order needs to be ordered from Baker Sports. Let me read that again. Simply put, anything you order needs to be ordered from Baker Sports. Do y'all aware of that? I doubt it. Is that right? Is that good for Fitzgerald? After I was going up to work on the state championship in t-shirts, and I was looking at Fitzgerald driving down the roads downtown, how deserted it is. Empty buildings. I turned the corner and there's Sears, the mainstay in Fitzgerald. It's gone. 2 months ago closed. We're going to keep on closing businesses and taking rights of local people to do work. This doesn't seem fair. And I'm sure you're not aware of all the full benefits and liabilities of this particular action. I think you need to be aware of it. Compared me to 1948, I was thinking about the team. And before I was there, around here. But my parents had told me how vibrant the downtown area was. I know it's not going to come back for that. I don't want it to come back in 1948. There was a lot of injustice in 1948. I don't want that back. But it would be nice to have a vibrant downtown. COVID has affected businesses desperately. It's affected my business quite a bit. Most of us cancel out 2020. 2021's getting a little better. It's nothing like it used to be. All of my employees are graduates of Fitzgerald High School or even a student at Fitzgerald. I have 2 students that work part-time, of course. And my main printer that you know for many years, he has 2 sons at Fitzgerald High School. My son is a school bus driver now. My wife and I both graduated Fitzgerald High School. All of our children graduated Fitzgerald High School, and our daughter is a teacher coach. So we are intricately tied to Fitzgerald High School. We care about Fitzgerald High School and Benhill County School System. You do too. There's no doubt about that. Do you honestly believe you're getting a bad deal from the sporting goods companies that people, the coaches are using now? And you think Pioneer Graphics is overcharging and not delivering products? How many coaches have called me at night, weekends, whatever? We got a player that lost his uniform, the dog guy, the washing machine ate. Who goes down there? Yeah, we're gonna get you, we're gonna get a jersey, we're gonna let that athlete play. You think this company in Florida is gonna come up here and do that? I want you to look also at the website of that company, Baker Sports. Look at the first 7-10 reviews. If I were a coach, it scared me to death. Don't tie the hands of your coaches. Trust your coaches. They're not people. They're teachers and they're citizens. They have families. Let them make the call on who they want. They might pick Pioneer Graphics. They might pick R&S Sports and all these. You know, it's all right. They might pick Baker Sports. But what's the benefit, really? Sit down and think about it. I think you probably, we got, somebody gave a pretty good sales pitch to somebody here, and it sounded like a good plan, but think about it. And if you want to talk to me more about it, I'd like to talk to you, but talk to your coaches. See what happens there. And I wish you consider, if you can't rescind it, at least delay it until you have time, because they're coming in the first week of January to meet all the coaches and tell them all their criteria and all like that. Think about that. I mean, if you start taking jobs from Fitzgerald for no real reason, because they're a ghost town. You're going to have, they're not going to do anything in downtown. That's really all I have to say. I know all of you, and I appreciate what you do. And maybe you care about the students who Fitzgerald didn't attend. You care about the citizens, just like I do. Just please consider that. I know y'all didn't know all the details of that. I understand that. That's why I want you to be aware of that. So, if you have any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Next, Jim Captain.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention something on the decision that I heard last month at the board. It was made and it's been graded on it. And so I didn't want to wait the next month, I'll be forgotten. There was a decision made to spend $35,000 to move Matt's mainframe, whatever you call it, to the gym. And that's fine, I ain't got to complain about that. But for the new board members, I just wanted to share a little history for you about, when was it, 2 years ago? We go out there, Dawn meets us out there at Linwood School, just go through that building, y'all remember that, to see what shape it was in, to demolish. Same time, she said, let's walk over here, let's look at this building, because there's some work got to be done on it. Got to put a roof on it. She told the board members that. That was agreed on. That was agreed. Building was leaking. We went over there and looked at another building, library, what, for what you said to it. Good tour. Now, I hadn't heard really anything. I've heard figures, that we got a price on what the roof would be to redo that building, $200,000, something like that. And that's fine. That's what a roof costs. The building will do without roof. So we just made the decision last month to move all of that data out of there to Cook Electric for $35,000 and whatever else it costs in match time and the rest of it, to put it in the gymnasium. Because it's a good, secure building with a roof. And that's fine. My point is, basically then I would assume that the board made the decision, by making that decision, that building is not worth saving, and we're not going to put a roof on it. Because if we was going to put a roof on it, we'd have put a roof on it. And we wouldn't have to spend, we could put that $35,000 on the roof and left it where it's at. So I just want to bring that to the attention of the board members that haven't been over here, and some of y'all that have might, not, I guess you put that together. But I mean, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, if that's the decision that was made for that, which Gary and I sort of talked about it, is that we basically saying, we're abandoning that building, we're gonna tear it down too. And that's fine. As long as when a decision like that's made to move that out of there to that gym, you know basically that the board has decided that building's no good, we're gonna bulldoze it down. Well, guess what? Then if that's what we decided, we don't need to do like them with school and let it stand there forever till it becomes an issue. And if we decided the building ain't worth saving, get the bulldozers out there and push it down. I mean, that's my only point. And I don't know that that's what y'all want to do. You know, I don't know that the building's been assessed as to being worthless. If it's worthless, bulldoze it down. If it wasn't worthless, we should have put a roof on it, in my opinion, not spend the $35,000 to move all that equipment somewhere else, but put a roof on the building. And so I think that basically by making the decision we made, that sort of somewhere in the background, we've decided that building's not worth saving. And if it's not, then you need to know that and plan on demolishing. We don't need a bunch of buildings standing around. We're not going to use them. That's all. I got that off my mind.
Thanks, sir. All right, moving to system reports, entertain motion to approve the consent agenda items listed as 7A 135.
Motion.
All right, pay bill list.
Mr. Chairman, the pay bill for November for Fund 100 is coming up at $2,310,476.65. And for Fund 151, we're showing $195,519.96.
Okay, any questions? All right, general fund fiscal year to date.
Our general fund, our fund balance right now for the end of November is showing at $4,797,401.37.
Okay, East Plus report.
East Plus report is looking much better than last month. We're about 40,000 down last month, so now we back up to $229,055.14. And that's hovering around 7,100 above our average per year.
Facility report.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I'd like to call on Matt Hightower from Parish. School update.
Yes, sir, we've been trying to contribute more and more today, start coming over at the Sometimes big, but, we're, I know y'all were out there yesterday, we see a lot of progress, the colors coming together, the finishes coming together. We finished up the roof on the two middle roofs, this week, they were expecting tomorrow, you know, the finish panels on it. Later this week, we got, today was a really big day for us. We had our 80% fire marshal inspection, which is everything above ceiling, all the life safety items. We had that on half the building today, and it went extremely well. It was probably the best one I've ever been a part of. Found no items that were of any concern, and we had a great report. So that's a huge step in us. The next advance for us is the drop ceiling tile, and we're going to start punching the classroom rooms, the lines and different upgrade rooms, our areas workers, we will start making that a finished product. The gymnasium, we're fixing to shake out the roof floor and start getting that installed right at Christmas. So, and everything around that, the boxes all been done there, so all the locker rooms are get finished. And we'll start punching out there, punch books in that area around the gym floor also. Auditorium, we finally settled our issue with the, we got motorized force in there, so we had a roof speaker, have a roof and clouds, but they're just getting the building in. So that's that space is taking shape. And then 68 one we're painting in there now, and we're working towards doing our overhead inspections for that area, all the kitchen and everything. So, we've got, the last of the curtain wall doors coming in, next week. So, getting real close to winding down. It takes a long time to finish the building that size, but we're starting on that process now. And it's coming together, we're taking up time to make sure that you guys have everything exactly how it's supposed to be. So, we're starting paving out there this week. We've got the DOT, DCL lane started today, they're going to move around on that, so, the outside is starting to be very good. So, we're getting really close to, it's going from the outside, it appears like not as much is being done, but I'm confident we're getting around there, so, speaking up, anybody got any questions?
About tennis courts.
Tennis courts, we were, supposed to start this week on the asphalt. We got out there yesterday. It's been good to look at the subgrade. You know, this week, you had a question about the subgrade, and as you know, if you want to have that subgrade right, you'll be dealing with that forever. So we're doing some additional tests to make sure everything's like it's supposed to be there.
Well, last flight's taken by the size of our courtyard, so when do you think we're going to pour that pavement?
The courtyard over by the main entrance,
Yes.
we're finishing up the building, and then we're going to start masonry, either before the end of this week or next week, and all that will get clear, and wall iron. So, that was, the brick will start pretty quick and move very fast. The wall iron will take a while to get, but that will be happening very soon, and we need it to happen soon. We're going to get off paving that front drive and trying to do that courtyard done, so we don't mess up the asphalt maybe with the concrete structure.
What did you say about DOT?
We started the ACL, DCL lane and the DOT right away.
On the highway?
Yeah. You'll notice there's barrels and signs down there right now. There'll be a tractor. There's a tractor there moving dirt today, straight to get down to subgrade on the side of the road. Nearest the school, we'll come in and do that, and then we'll come and overlay the existing surface and restripe. So that'll probably take place over the next,
So with the lanes, acceleration, deceleration, are we going to look at lights too? I mean, what's our situation on that?
That is a DOT call, period. And basically, they'll throw that.
So is that something that we need to make noise about, public need to make noise about? Or,
Your representatives would be the best avenue to go with that.
Okay.
And they'll come out and do their study, count the cars, and
Okay.
figure out what needs to happen.
But I thought that should have been in place already. They talked to the DOT.
It is in place. That's already done, but they're not just gonna come up and put a light there just because we're putting a school there.
But would there be a turn lane or anything before we move the
all
kids
you
in?
have is ACL, DCL lane.
All it is, the ACL and diesel.
This little sign on it. That both directions?
It'll just be on the, coming from town, going out, you'll see what we're going to
Any more questions for Mr. Matt? Matt, thank you very much for your time tonight. Mr. Newell?
Oh, yeah, we just staying busy as always. You can look at the report, it's just a lot of numbers, but we're a week out for Thanksgiving, but just staying on top of maintenance work orders for the teachers in schools. And, we did get one project done over at pre-K school. We got them a few pictures on there. They got them a new combi of it. I think the one we pulled out of there was probably there when I went to school. Yeah, it was there. Hey, we got it installed. They loving it over there, and but it's just and it's been cold a few nights, so now we go up from air conditioners to heaters, and, you know, it's just, that's a, never ending thing, but, we stay on top of it, and it's all going good with the maintenance department.
Thank you, Mr. Noel.
So,
I like your new fancy report.
Thank Miss Brandon, she's the designer of that.
All right.
I thought it was, I liked it too. We got up to times.
There you go. I pay attention.
And that new work order system that we're just derived from, is working awesome. You know, it's just, everybody loves it. So it's no more paperwork, it's all digital, and, you know, everything gets handled. And, you know, the biggest thing about it is Mr. Sims puts a work order in, he's got a toilet leaking over there. When he puts it in, it comes to me, you know, I sign it to one of my guys, and when it's completed, they close it. It comes to me, says it's closed, it goes to him, says it's closed, everybody knows it's finished, and, you know, it's just, you know, there's no questions. It's just, you know, it's working out really good. My guys love it. You know, it's just, it's making everything run smooth. And thank Matt and Brownland and the IT department for doing that.
Fantastic, thank you.
That's their report.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question, most uncharacteristic, I usually don't mess with the athletic report. I know that when we play games throughout the season, we acquire some money, some revenue from those games, right?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
so whenever we're doing that and we go into the playoffs, we acquire some revenue.
Yes, ma'am.
So if we win the state, do we get additional revenue?
Yes, ma'am, you will get revenue based off of what Georgia High School says that we get. So, don't expect a big Christmas from them. It's just not gonna happen. And,
Oh, so it's based on attendance?
it's based on attendance, but they control everything that goes along with it. And so you don't know how many tickets were sold, you don't know all these other things, so how are you gonna predict what your percentage is that you're supposed to get off of what total? And they just tell you, here's your total of what you get.
Okay, I just wanted to be able to answer that question.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you so much.
Yes, ma'am. I can assure you of this, if those teams would have played at Valdosta State or Mercer, you would have generated 5 times the amount of money of what we had to do to go to Atlanta.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got a question, but I'll wait.
Go ahead.
Well, what's the process of changing? I mean, I've heard comments for 2 or 3 years about going vacant and that kind of stuff. I know GPB's in Atlanta, it's easy for them to set up, that's a big revenue stream and all that anyway. Just curious.
I'm with you, Mr. Gary, that it used to be to where you could make it a family event for the weekend. Think about it, you were in the Georgia Dome. Your family, you could go up, you could stay with relatives, you could stay at hotels, you spend the whole weekend, family go shopping, do whatever, you go to the aquarium, whatever you wanted to do. But you could also go sit and enjoy 3 days of football if that's just what you wanted to do and not worry about the weather. I don't know if y'all saw Saturday's game. It was flooding raining. It caused a 45-minute delay.
Yeah.
So, to your answer of that is, I don't know, because our coaches and athletic directors were in meetings doing a schedule that they put out of revamping classifications, get done, and start to walk out the door, and they're called back in to say, oh, by the way, Georgia High School just met, changed it, put all private schools back on top and re-scrambled everybody. So now you're going from this district to play these kids. or you could drop 2 levels, you could go up 2 levels. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. We are now in a situation where we're going to play schools in AA that have 2,300 kids in them that are private. And it's just the most unequitable thing I've ever seen. And we changed it a long time ago by superintendents writing letters and standing on top of people's desks. And maybe we need to get back to that with school board members and everybody else writing in saying, listen.
It seems like Georgia High School is calling shots and everybody else is following the lead instead of us telling them what we want.
So, as a superintendent, I'm sitting here and I have no idea, other than their meeting, that we're heading in this path, in this direction, and our coaches are, and our principal is, and our AD is, and then within an hour, it's a completely separate deal. But here's the unequitable part of it when we look at our day and time, is that if Mr. Juan is a public school and I'm a private school, we're going to meet on the field, we're going to shake hands, and we're going to agree to play under GHSA. However, I'm going to be able to recruit, and I can have this many kids in my school, and I don't have to follow all your rules, but Mr. Juan, you better not let me catch you violating one rule. So, how is that fair and equitable across the board? I mean, there's a team in AA right now that beat a 7A state qualifying team like a drum. So think about our coaches. Here they are preparing for normalcy of playing tough, the toughest football in the South in our region. To now, you're going to play a team that truly, if you look at the champions the other night, there was 4 private schools on that field. 3 of them won championships, but the other one would have beat just about anybody that lost, would beat anybody else in classifications. So that would have been 4 champions of private schools. I just don't see how it's possible, to be fair. So you opened it up.
So do you send a letter from us? I mean, let's start the wave. I mean, does our school board send a letter to GHSA and tell them, hey, we demand better? I mean, how does that look?
It goes back. Just talking about it. It goes back to the way I look at it. It's money, power, and politics. Oh, yeah. And the only way we're going to get it done is if we come together. It's just like I said at our recent meeting today with superintendents and representatives were sitting there. That if we want change, it comes from superintendents, it comes from school boards, and it's like anything else. If they don't hear from you, they're going to change now.
Could we empower you to engage in conversation with your fellow superintendents?
Absolutely.
Your meetings?
Yes, sir. I reached out to them today and said, listen, now we're going to have conversations about this, and they want to start having conversations about that. You know, some of these schools that did it 7 to 5A, 4A, it really didn't affect, but just a little bit in difference of travel. But for 1A to 3A, it's dramatic. Well, look at Pierce County. Pierce County won the state title last year, and they are coming to AA.
Pierce and Apple.
And Apple. So, yes.
When we went up, I guess, the Sunday before the state game, one of the coaches that was there asked what the feasibility was playing in the dome again. And the answer that was given was that Arthur Blank and the Falcons charged $750,000 to rent the dome out. And Georgia State, which is the old Turner Field, only charges $250,000. So the GHSA is saying that it's a money issue. They just can't afford the $750,000 bill. But from what they said, they're looking at it as well. They don't have a multi-year contract with Georgia State. It's year to year. So it's something that could be changed, but there will have to be some pressure. And Ms. Shirley, just so you know, even when we host a playoff game at home, before we pay anybody, The GHSA takes 35% of whatever we make at the gate. So, they gonna get there, they gonna get theirs.
Well, I think what they're doing is, they broadcast the games, I think, looking forward, I think that's one of the biggest things, that we broadcast the games. I know, we're moving, I know we do it on a local level, that I hear how Wiley on the sidelines and stuff like that, we got to get to the point where we're able to broadcast our own games. And the biggest problem is that schedule, because they'll do, in one day, they'll show 3 or 4 games. And you can imagine, I guess, if you localize that, to how that, you got to leave out, a large part of the audience. But I think, just imagine, if that game was here in Fisher or here in Charlotte. I looked at the fans, I guess, that were there, it was decent. But imagine, if that had been a home game for one of those teams, they would have made a lot of money. If not that, Atlanta, I just don't. I prefer, Macon, maybe Warner Robins, especially for the southern teams, a little bit more conducive, I guess, for us. But I think that's the biggest thing. And think about, with the private schools, we lost to probably 3 or 4 state championships. Benedict, Page, Great Atlanta Christian. I mean, we were, we faced those teams, I guess, in semifinals and finals. We lost to it. But we definitely got to do something about that. It's just most of our, I assume 90% of our kids, I guess, from kindergarten all the way up, are here in Fisher. We do have some event, but those private schools, they're there for a year, a semester, and that's not fair to those kids that have worked, all that time to get to that level and only be, put up against a hired gun for the most part. So, Dr. Harrelson, whatever you need to do to assist you, I know we've lost, 3 or 4. That's in the last 10 years. We lost the championships, I guess, because of that.
And you're exactly right. When you really look at the big picture of it, they'll dominate in softball, they'll dominate in baseball, they'll dominate in cross country, they'll dominate in volleyball, tennis. I mean, it's just rampant. So you start looking at it and naturally the coach looks at it and says, well, what am I working for then? What am I working towards? If I've already got a giant in front of me that is playing under a different rule, what's it going to do to us? So those are the type of things when I look at what's best for boys and girls, I don't feel that in my heart that's what's best for boys and girls.
Several years ago, a lot of the schools start talking about pulling out of GHSA and starting their own organization.
So they did.
Just so they did.
It will definitely be one of those things as we go down the road that I'm sure will be talked about by numerous districts.
So we consensus to let him engage those conversations?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And we want to fight ideas, and most definitely we want to make a move on that.
All right, any more comments on the consent agenda items? All right, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. We have transportation request for your information. All those are in the state. All right, Hal, board regular meeting, College Director.
Yes, sir. We did not meet in, or we're not gonna meet in December. We, I think our bylaws say that we have to meet 9 of the 12 months. So we always take December off because it's so busy. But just a couple of things that we are working on. obviously the Flex program is the big one. We're in round 2 right now, got 10 really good companies they're operating. They're learning a lot. They're having some growing pains right now, but our first workshop is Thursday. As most of you know, we have a half a day, Thursday and Friday, because we'll be doing finals. When they get out, they get out earlier in the day, but we schedule time for them to go get lunch. There'll be a 2 o'clock workshop, and it'll be on financials. We've got a local entrepreneur, local banker, and actually Hallie Bynum is going to be there to help assist from the contest last year. And we're going to do a financials workshop, and then we're going to break into groups, and they're going to work individually with these 3 people that are coming to help us. So that's exciting. I just finished up my about 10-page quarterly report to the Department of Education. I sent that in. Next semester, we're going to do a job fair similar to what we did before the school year started. We did a community job fair earlier, right before school started, for the community, and it was a big turnout. I don't know if you remember, but a lot of y'all came, but the chamber helped us with that. We're going to do one this time, the same format, but it's going to be focused more on our seniors that are about to go to work. If they don't have other plans, and part of their plan is to go to work, that's what this job fair is going to be built around, rather than opening it up to the community. But it'll be the same people coming, more than likely, and the same format. It'll be in the gym. It'll be really good. Another big thing that we always do in the second semester is the 8th grade visits. We're looking forward to that. So that's going to be good. And I've got a couple of meetings with some industry partners about some bigger partnerships that we can do now that we're getting into the. I don't want to give too many details, but pretty big one. We got a pretty nice lab, and they're pretty impressed, and we want to see how impressed they are, because we know what's going in there. We know what our grants are going to allow us to buy. But if you want your name on something, we can work it out. We can work a deal out for you. So we're going to be talking to several industries about that. So just got a lot going, and we just won a state championship. So this past week I've been worried about that. Pep rallies and parades and stuff like that.
Thank you, Hal.
Oh yeah, sorry, Miss Kenny reminded me. So the parade's tomorrow at 5. And it's going to be a short parade. It's going to be a good parade, but we didn't open it up to the entire community. We wanted it to be about those guys and everybody who was part of the process to bring that state championship home. So I think we got 9, maybe 10 floats in it. We're going to go real slow. And then we're also going to have I don't know how this is going to work out, but we're going to have the trophy there. And we'll have it set up on a high top table with a nice tablecloth so people can come get behind it. We'll have the backdrop, and people can come get behind it and take a picture. So thought that was cool. And we've got a bunch of the 48 team. Bill did an interview with one of the gentlemen who's in Florida, Mr. Jolly, and we'll play that in the morning on the radio, on the morning show. But Mr. Williams should be here tomorrow, and we got a majorette and 2 cheerleaders that are going to be in the parade as well. So that's going to be cool. Anything else, Jim? Thank you.
Thank you, you did good, Hal.
All right.
Hi, Hal.
Yep.
COVID update.
At this time, we had 4 students quarantined. No students positive or still have the COVID at this time.
Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Webb. Excuse me, technology report. Got right over you. Matt.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Y'all, we got this report put together, and every time we do here lately, it seems to be all about the high school letter. I guess that's the way it's going to be here for a little while still. But anyway, before we get to that, stuff we have been working on is just providing tech support, as the current high schools undergoing their, some of their in-course testing. Of course, I've heard and seen, and that's been going very smoothly, which is always a blessing. Some things for the new high school that we've been looking at, you know, it's just stuff that, you know, we kind of get used to being in place, but that you have to think about, well, it's not there, you know, so we've been looking at the two-way radio system, had a site survey there yesterday. Luckily, or fortunately, with its proximity to the bus shop and transportation office, that's a main transmission hub in the county, so that close proximity is going to make this basically a small add-on to the current infrastructure, both financially and operationally. So that's good. It won't take much to kind of bring the new facility in line with the radio system. Also looking at the door guard lighting protection system, and as there's going to be at least some sports out there, maybe more to come. Just want to again make sure we bring that into the fold of that system so that it's you know, we get the same sort of security alerts and stuff that are weather related. Outside of the new high school, we've got the installation of the new interactive panels funded through the Rush Grant at the middle school, scheduled for over Christmas break. So those will be going in while everyone's away, and then as teachers come back, they'll come back to those brand new panels. We're also looking too, as I mentioned to you last month, about the grant award we got for a little over 2,100 new Chromebooks. We also engaged some of our service providers and partners about getting some funding for additional items. Because as this is an exciting project, it's not really anything that's materialized yet in terms of a plan. So all that's happened is that we've been given an award for funding, which is fantastic. But now the actual planning and preparation comes in. So you know, we're just looking at things that we know that aren't included in the funding award that are going to have to be ancillary to the project, that are going to be costly, not costly, but having cost. See if we can get some of those things funded through grants or other offerings and stuff like that. Google will give us money to go to Google. So, you know, just taking advantage of stuff like that, just to kind of offset some of the, like I said, some of the sort of add-on costs that are going to be associated with that project. Looking ahead, getting the panels installed at the high school. You know, the good news about the approval from the fire marshal today is excellent. You know, and then once we get beyond kind of where the construction team is, you know, not having to punch so much stuff, we're going to look to get those panels laid right in behind it. That's a critical piece of classroom support technology. And then lastly, just supervising installation for the network at the new high school again. You know, that's got to go in. That's the underlying infrastructure for basically everything that happens. Anything that relies on the network, you know, can't work without it. So obviously that's a critical piece that we'll be doing at the end of January after school.
Any questions from Matt?
So then the cabling's put in, just verifying, y'all are putting in the patch panels and servers and stuff like that, will y'all be doing that work?
So both of those things are covered through E-rate. We, you know, this is something we applied for a year ago. But by virtue of doing that, all that work gets taken care of through those service providers. There's a company doing cabling and another who's doing the network electronics.
So y'all will work in with it done, I mean, instead of...
Right, that's right. Yeah, you know, then we'll still be doing transfer of other equipment in terms of the underlying network infrastructure that's being handled through the project.
And let me give kudos to Matt and Brendlin and Kings, is that when you heard tonight, you heard Matt talking about 80% approval in the ceiling from the fire marshal. That only happens based off the fact that all things are done in the ceiling. So when Mr. Jeremy asked that important question right there, Matt has been able to structure that along with Parrish to get that done in a timely manner so that it was prepared for the inspection from the fire marshal so that we can move forward. And that's what it's going to take in order to continue at the pace we're at. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, Rick Administration.
Good evening. Just got a few things to go over. Professional development wise, we're still looking at the writing process and instructional strategy of teachers. On December 7th, I met with the LA teacher staff at Benton Middle School. Really had a really super good conversation about writing instruction, grading feedback, student creativity. And right afterwards, I met with Mr. Heitzman and his admin team, and we had a real productive conversation about, monitoring the writing process in the school, monitoring what we discussed with the ELA teachers and what needed to be done to realistically just to get our students to write. And we discussed this last time at the last board meeting. I think the question was, why do we not want to write in the fear? Well, we're working on getting our students over the fear of writing. And so a lot of the grading and feedback process has a lot to do with that. And so we discussed that. And Mr. Hyams and his team has been charged with monitoring that process and make sure that we hold true to what we say we're going to do. Then also out of that, in that meeting, I found out that in middle school, the social studies and science teachers are on board, and they are having students doing writing for science and writing for social studies to help improve student writing. And I'm very proud to hear that they're working on that. And a comment was made in the admin meeting. I was talking about we need to find new ways to promote student writing and to make students, want to present what they have to say. And I don't remember who brought it to the table, but it was stated that maybe we could publish some of the students writing in the paper. And I had a discussion with Jim McCready, who was going to help me spearhead that, and we're going to try to, over the next couple of months, start putting in place ways for each school to have their student work published. And I think some students may be encouraged to they'd love to see their work in the paper. And I'd love to see mine, but I'm not a community, I'm more technical. The assessment part, of course, it's mid-year. We're doing, milestones, cadence, math, MACE, reading comprehension, NAVI for writing, and SATLIS, which is being implemented also at the middle school, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Under school reports, our K-5 schools are sending called writing readers and writing samples with their report cards in January for this second 9 weeks, which I'm glad they're sending writing samples home so mom and dad can read and see what their children are writing about. The primary school, we have IXL in most of our system now, and the primary school has done a pilot October through December, and they've elected to purchase a license for IXL for their students. And I've discussed heavily before for community awareness, and they are seeing some success by daily engagement with community awareness with the students. And this is what in the report. Teachers are seeing improvement in phonics scores on weekly CFA data. They credit Haggerty based on observing students using Haggerty techniques with segmenting, blending, decoding words on assessments. So it's good to hear that that our schools have made a decision and we have data saying, hey, this is actually working. They encourage us to keep pressing on and keep monitoring that. They've also, at the primary school, they implemented fact fluency for math, and they're school-wide, they're doing it every day, and we're going to look at the data the second half of the year and find out if we're actually more impact on students' math, which we all know is an important thing, and we talk about it all the time. They don't know the math things, so we're going to work on them knowing the math things. The elementary school, they're working on engagement strategies, which is, to be honest, I went and met with all the admin teams. And another one thing to come up with every single thing that we help with is professional development and student engagement. is what they're looking for. So one of the things that we need to do is work on getting students engaged, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. They're also working on writing being taught daily, third through fifth. At the high school, of course, they have their very mainstream, of course, math, because they're on a semester system, and they need the semester data to see how much grade they created. And of course, in the testing courses, they did the milestones last week and this week, I believe. They're also doing grade replacement has been implemented, and this is to do two things. Grade replacement is to reduce student workload. It's also to give students greater chances to demonstrate mastery of the standards. And so they're working toward giving students a chance to prove mastery. And I think that's a good thing, because that's what we're trying to get to. We're not trying to get to an average grade. We're trying to get to mastery so the students, whenever they leave high school, they have options that they can choose what they want to do and choose to go to college or go into the technical field. And we definitely want them to have those skills to do that. Under instruction, and I skipped over that because I already talked about that last. We're continuing to engage in conversations about effective instructional practices. And one of the things that we want to do is engage our students. And one of the things we can do to do that is bring in their individual creativity into the instructional process. And we're continuing to talk about that, and we've got teachers talking about it, admin teams talking about, how are we going to be able to do this. And we've had some really good conversations about, especially in relation to writing, looking for things, jumping off points for students, prompts that they can relate to. They're not going to be able to relate to the same things I relate to. And I take that to the same way in the math classroom. We've always talked about probability in the state of Georgia standards. It's a big deal, probability and understanding that. But giving kids problems that involve a deck of cards is useless. We need to find new ways to present that to our students. And in writing, we need to be able to find prompts that our students can relate to, have life experiences that they can write about. Because how are they going to tell their own story if they have no experience with what you're asking them to write about? Yeah, we want to stretch them. We want to teach them about the world. And we want to give them new experiences. But we need to allow them to write within the experiences that they have. And so we're asking kids to be creative. And we want our teachers to be creative. So does that have a place in the world today? Well, I don't know if you've been looking around, but has anybody noticed automation boom since COVID? Yeah. Wonder why businesses are doing that. They're looking for employees and can't find them, so what are they going to do? They're going to stay in business. These big companies, Amazon's going to be in business. They've already automated delivery systems in cities. So they're going to get their products out there. So what's that mean for us? Well, in 2015, creativity is number 10 on the list. In 2020, I want to read you this list, what our businesses and our major corporations are wanting employees to be able to do. Complex problem solving, always number 1. Critical thinking, number 3. It moved from 10 to 3 in 5 years. They want employees who are creative. People management, coordinating with others. This one might be on the list of emotional intelligence. I don't even know if I have that. Judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. What does that mean for our students in the future? We need to be starting to think about this today. Because our third graders, when they graduate from high school, the jobs we think are going to be available to them, they're not going to be there. They're going to be brand new jobs. We're going to need to teach students proper methods of acquiring knowledge. And that knowledge is not to be found on social media. And knowledge application. We need to be able to teach students to acquire skills and the importance of performance. And I drill this into my high school students. It doesn't matter how hard you work if your product is inferior. Performance matters. Move learning from reducing information facts to adding value by creating and using knowledge. Teach our students to be knowledge workers who can learn and adapt to an ever-changing landscape. Because I'm telling you, since I was in high school, the world I'm looking at now isn't anything close to what I was at when I graduated high school. Cell phones weren't invented, the internet didn't come around until '85. I graduated in '78. I had to go into the stacks in college to find that information. Now I got this course device off the board and just type it in and find anything I want. So we do have some things to think about, and I think creativity will improve student engagement, and I think our focus on writing will improve reading comprehension, and definitely improve our students' chances to be able to let you know what they know.
Mr. Webb, I had 2 questions for you. I've been wanting to ask them, but I was going to wait to see if they came around the December meeting. Been on the board for a year now. Does the board not receive any overall milestone scores for our system, or perhaps our CCRPI score? I've not seen that in the 12 months that I've been on the board.
Yes, sir, and of course, there wasn't any testing the year before, so you didn't get any last year. And this year, they're not calculating CCRPI scores. Is my understanding that is correct, right?
At this time,
The state said that it will receive some data to look at, but as far as the CCRPI score, I don't know that we're going to get that.
So how about milestones? Overall, do we get a look at that picture? I'll be honest with you, as a parent, I found out Mr. Heisman was very helpful with that. We just pushed that out on our parent portal, and there was no communication that was out there for parents. And me and Mr. Heisman talked, and he made an all call for middle school. We want parents to be engaged, whether it's good or bad, and it makes us. As a parent, made me feel like maybe they weren't as good as what we wanted them to be, so we was going to hide that fact. And I just think we need to be transparent. We're telling people a lot of the good things we're doing, but we need to be sure that, hey, this may be where we're struggling a little bit. So I just want to bring that to the attention of the board and the community.
Well, it's clear that the scores are going to be lowered for last year's milestones.
Right.
And realistically, I was principal at the elementary school, and we had probably close to 400 students at one time that were digital.
Right.
And there were some classrooms I went into, and the students logged in a class of 22. Sometimes only half of them can show up.
Right.
Well, if you don't get the instruction,
That's right.
so we're going to look at drops in scores. I know the scores, they were embargoed until what day?
right here, probably 30 days ago, maybe a little bit longer ago. Right before Thanksgiving. Based off of COVID, yes.
So the state is holding our schools homeless, right?
Yes.
They're not taking in the
That's correct,
20
because
grades and 21st.
almost 90% of Georgia milestone across the state is completely down. And
That doesn't help our students, I'm just saying.
One thing I can tell you that I was looking at some data a week or so ago, and trying to put together, how much drop is in as far as Lexiles, our ability to actually read text. And I think across the board, our drop was significantly smaller than a lot of school systems drop. I think it was between 5 and 6%, which wasn't bad, because there were some in the 20s that had significant issues So we do have some challenges, and that's the reason we keep talking about catching our students up. And that's one reason I want to work on writing so much and work on trying to get students to comprehend. I think the schools are doing a great job trying to catch up. They're being very flexible. I know the high school is trying to give students ample opportunities to demonstrate their mastery. I know Mr. Pikes with his school has combined zero block and hurricane time so that they have a longer period of time in the day where they can catch students up. And of course, with the primary and elementary school, they're working with win times for the tier 2, and they've expanded their tier 3 to try to help students catch up.
Can you imagine if we did not, we weren't prepared for COVID, of course, but if had we not had our individual devices for students, how long behind our students would drop during this period?
I found we have been along with some of the other systems, and that's what I attribute to their big declines, is because they did not have the technology in place to help the students that would actually join their classes.
And during your comments, Ms. Webb, you mentioned something, I want you to elaborate, if you will. The grade replacement, did you say at the high school level that that's going to take place?
At the high school.
Would you expand on that? What are you talking about, grade replacement? Are you talking about what happened at the elementary school currently, where we don't have grades?
No.
Okay, I mean, just if you're looking, so people will understand that.
Mr. Sims, would you like to?
Essentially what we found with COVID when we went virtual is you'd have a lot of kids that weren't logging in. So they didn't take assessments. They had missing work. So instead of teaching new material, our teachers were consistently trying to get kids to turn in missing work. So what we said is if we're after mastery of the concept, you take the formative assessment, and whatever grade you get on that formative assessment, we're going to input that for the missing daily work that you have, the homework. So I'm going to take this test. If I get an 80 and homework related to that test, I have 3 zeros. We're putting an 80 in for all 3. That way you're not being punished because we were virtual and you just can't get caught up. Teachers, it cut their workload down half because they don't have to keep trying to pull kids in to get them to make stuff up. So now you take that mastery level assessment, that formative assessment, and it goes in place of the zeros.
I do want to be sure if somebody heard that, they didn't.
And the other thing it did was it put more of a value on the daily work, because now kids have figured out if I don't do the daily work, that grade I get on that assessment's going in that daily work spot. So now I want to do my daily work so I can better understand that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Webb.
Great report, Mr. Webb, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, moving into new business. First item is request approval of the 2022-23 calendar. Entertain motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion?
With the, and I just thought about this while ago, as Matt was talking, with the construction, is there any reason that we would think, not the construction, but the remodeling? Is there anything that we see that you would want to push that back?
Ahead of it.
Okay.
We're going to set the regular calendar. I just met with Parrish this afternoon before I came here. Basically, we're waiting for Greg Smith to give us 2 pieces of items that we have to send to the state. As soon as they approve that CARES funding for the renovation projects, then we can put them out for bid. Now, here's the problem, is that when you're talking about major HVAC, you're talking about lighting and things like that, even though we put them out in December, you have that time period you have to put it out for. So it's about 45 days. You get it back, and then they have to order. So now you're looking at, we're into close to end of January. What we have to do is prioritize right now on what, when we get to that point, what we can get in and what we can accomplish. That could look like that we lay it out that this equipment comes in and we predict that we can get it done, but we might have to delay school a week. we might have to delay it 2 weeks. So we've created calendars and have that ready, already to show those delays and what that would look like. Worst case, we don't delay school, it might become summer this year, summer next year.
And we'll be okay with that?
Yes.
Spending money wise?
Yes, we're perfectly fine. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to add that we did a survey of this calendar with the staff, and we got some really good input about the spring break and the start of school. And we listened to those comments, and we modified our calendar, and I appreciate the feedback that we got. It was really good.
Any other comments? All in favor of the proposed 2022-23 calendar, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item of business, you have a summary of purchase orders over $10,000. Technology and instructional items. Any comments?
Question.
Any questions?
Yeah. We didn't get a report of it last month. The month before, the grand total spent so far for October was $1,598,000. Now we're showing $1,357,000. On technology.
Is this August? It says August in the title.
So is that just a grand total of August now? Is that what it is?
That's what it looks like, but.
We didn't get November, in November.
Well, we didn't make any purchases in during October. No.
Yeah, but if in October, we were totaling pretty much $1,600,000, why is it now $1,300,000?
This is the wrong report. This is from August. So it's,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, we don't get a report one month, then we get the wrong one the following month. Where we at?
so I think in October, there was no purchase over $10,000. None of this was executed. And then either I sent the wrong one to Debbie or just so all reports attached. One of the-
I guess we need to update it.
Hold on just a second. The last one I have right here shows September.
We move on through the agenda and come back to that.
Yes, sir.
Y'all good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll put that hang for a minute. Our next item of business is the request approval of purchase order to Smith Appliance Parts. Motion for that's $19,426. Motion second, any discussion?
Sean, or Dr. Harris, will you tell them about the company that we're getting that from? I think that's pretty good public knowledge.
Yes, sir.
I think it's especially important to make sure it's not our version. No relation, right?
It is, when we look at providing opportunities for local, we specifically looked as we were developing infrastructure inside the school, as you see, refrigerators, stoves, commercial refrigerators, microwaves, things like that. So I reached out to Mr. Gary Smith. At the time, he had Sears, and he asked politely if we could possibly wait, as he was making the transition, so absolutely we waited. And we reached out to him, and he responded back and has given us a wonderful opportunity to purchase items locally here from Mr. Gary Smith in the store.
Mount Airy's the best deal I could.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm sure we got.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. I'll put these over, want to insert these now?
That would be great, yes, sir.
Since we're doing purchase orders. We've had amended agenda to add 4 purchase orders because the CTAE grant was approved. And so we have purchase orders based on that. These are all for Fisher High School, and these will all be paid out of the grant funds. One is and these are all for Southern Educational Systems. Purchase order $54,000 for health science equipment. Purchase order $22,380 for informational tech labs. Purchase order for 107,312 for tech labs. And purchase order for 13,918 for business management. If you have any questions on those, I have the documents here. That's the amounts, they're all to the same vendor. And all will be paid out of CTE funds. Is there a motion to approve those 4 items?
Motion. Second.
Motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Our next item is in December, when we do not have elections, we can temporarily suspend the board policy DBA to go ahead and elect the board officers for 2022, so we move in to the new year with that. We also set time, date, and place for our meetings, and we'll do those separately. So this time, entertain a motion to temporarily suspend board policy BBA. Motion second. Discussion.
So with that, the reason why is just because, is it our policy to suspend policy?
Once every 2 years when you don't have elections.
Gotcha.
You cannot do it when you have elections because you'll have new people come in January.
Okay.
And this is just to allow getting ahead of the game for January. All those in favor of temporary suspending the policy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. I have nomination and election of board chair for 2022. Board open.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Gary Smith for board chair for 2022.
Motion second. Any other nominations?
What did Gary Smith was talking about?
I'll do my first seat.
Real Gary Smith.
I'm the one that gave the quote. He has to work. All right, all those in favor of the election, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Nomination and election of board vice chair for 2022.
Nominate Shirley Brooks. Second.
Motion second. Discussions? Any other nominations? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Next item is approval of board meeting and calendar dates, place and time for 2022. You have your times attached to your agenda, and ironically, all those are on the second Tuesday night for next year. The place will be the board office, central office, and the time will be 6 o'clock. Entertain a motion to approve that. Motion. Motion second, any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, we still had the opportunity if something should come up to be able to change at least 2 a year.
There's by law, we can do that, but by code, whatever you need to do, satisfy your needs.
Okay.
But yes, that's by law. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item of business is to approve the 2022 Section 1.5 plan, which was a cafeteria plan, was a cafeteria plan. This cafeteria plan is just called something different.
It's just the combination of your benefit packages and it's prior to taxes. That's why they call it cafeteria.
And it's a requirement from the IRS, right? And so it's the same as it's always been?
Yes.
Nothing's changed?
No,
I
ma'am.
just want to make sure it's changed.
No, ma'am, you have to approve it every year.
Yes, sir.
Motion.
Make a motion then that,
All right,
that we
motion
approve the
second.
the section 125.
Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. Next item is to request first approval of the first read of policy DJED, which is bids and quotations. Bringing that back to you. Entertain a motion to approve. So we can discuss.
A motion to approve the first read of policy DJED.
There's a second?
Second.
All right, motion second. Have discussion.
It's first read, right?
What this first policy does is it is a purchasing authority policy. I'm sorry, it's a bids and quotations policy where it spells out exactly what our staff has to do with certain amounts of money that we've never had in place. So if you'll see less than $5,000, you don't have to get any quotes for that service. Anything between 5 and 10,000, you have to get at least 2 vendor quotes. Anything above 10,000, at least 3 vendors. Anything above between 10,000 and 100,000 is Part C, but Part D is anything above 100,000 you got to bid out, and that's where we were lacking before. And then the rest of this goes into the RFP, basically the stuff that you have to do a RFP for bid and all the things that go along with that. So we never really had a policy that talked about that, so I felt like it was good for our staff to know exactly what the process is when we're purchasing. And it's very important that we follow these guidelines and that everybody understands what they are. And as being a former principal, I just did not understand this, so I wanted all of our principals, all of our directors, executive directors to understand, maintenance people, that what we have to do to actually follow through with the purchasing process. So that's what this does, it spells that out.
Know that right there where it's got a question mark, the blank, what's going to be?
Well, that was just something that,
Yeah, so I'll explain it to y'all. I don't know if you all received this, but when I get a policy review, I'll go through and mark it up and see, does it comply with law? Make little comments on it. That's why you see some highlights and you might see question marks or little comments in it. So that is why you might see that in the policy that, I don't know, is provided to you all. But we send it back and forth in Word. So sometimes, like such as, I leave it blank for, I guess, administration to fill in, and I can get with administration to fill in like an example of what a product or a specific service will be. But if it suits you all, if you all wanna see, I can email you all, the policy markups that I do so you can see it. But that is why a lot of times you might see highlight in the first read. That's because I email back and, I might highlight, or you probably saw underline, and if you saw underline, I probably had a comment to the side that made a little comment about it, the things of that nature.
The program only allows you to see it really when you print it out. So when you send it, like when I get it, I can see it, but when I send it, it won't allow the next person to be able to see it.
So when we talk about that curriculum and academic standards and concern about the school district, when you approve the budget, you basically telling us to run the school academically, run the school district with academic purchases, whether it's textbooks, whether it's software, whether it's manipulative, whatever that might be. That's what that pertains to. Any of the other things we're going to talk about in the next one that we discussed at the other meeting, the call meeting, the purchasing authority.
Would this policy also cover that controversial area that we got into about surplus property and land?
No,
it won't
that's
cover that.
a whole separate issue. Yes.
Okay.
And we rewrote that policy based on that,
Okay.
all that last year, not the year before.
Any other questions? All those in favor of the first read of policy DJED, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the first read of policy DJEA, which is purchase authority.
I'm going to approve policy DJEA, first read.
Second?
Second.
Motion second, now discussion.
This was the thing that we had controversy about. So we talked about the $25,000 threshold for purchasing for the superintendent to be able to approve those purchase orders up to $25,000. So what we did is we spelled out capital equipment that has to be approved by the board. All purchases of cars, trucks, buses, tractors, any type of large industrial equipment, all capital related service contracts with an aggregate of $25,000 per year and $25,000 for a series of capital projects. All contracts obligating the school district beyond the current fiscal year, all public works construction, and all contracts involving a total expenditure of $100,000. These are all things that would proceed out of the general budget, what we might get from capital outlay, like when we're doing renovations, maybe we're purchasing a new truck or something for whatever, a new hog trailer, anything like that, or a new service contract, such as when we have to add the new high school on to our Cinderella's contract. We're going to have to bring all that stuff before you because that cleaning service is going to look different than it does at the new high school.
Yeah.
So that's what this purchasing piece is about. And the superintendent will have to approve all purchases that exceed $10,000 in our purchase ordering routing system, where he sees it anyway. We send all purchase orders to him for approval. It's just anything under $25,000 per your request would be, the board would have to approve anything above that for these purchases. And if it's instructional, Debbie, we talked about that just like we showed you what we bought above 10,000. Well, that is what we continue to do monthly with our instructional purchases.
Number 6, all contracts involving a total expenditure that exceed $100,000. Can you explain that?
We don't do many contracts. We do a lot of contracts such as our maintenance and our lawn maintenance, our the Cinderella's contract, the milk bids and all those kind of things. We don't do a whole lot of contracts that would exceed $100,000. And if you want that changed, we can change that to wherever you want it to be. It's just according to what you see. Because our Cinderella's contract is the largest contract that we have. We don't lease things. We basically put it out for bid. And Sometimes it exceeds 100,000, sometimes it doesn't.
I think we need to decipher more what contract, what kind of contracts.
Okay. We can discuss that.
This doesn't have any, not a shot at Dr. Harrison at all, but the leeway. I mean, you've got all those structures in place, but then you're saying, hey, by the way, in his or her opinion, at any time the superintendent can just bypass all that. And just bring that for discussion, see if anybody else thought about that as they read that.
Gary, instructional books and all of that. Is there something about the state that we have to follow? An amount of money that we have to approve? Or can we put a ceiling on amounts that they can just go ahead and okay with that, us having to vote on it?
Well, I thought that's what, 25,000.
Yeah, but on instructional, can we waive that? I mean, it's gotta come from them.
Yes.
Or do we still have to go there?
Well, I guess
Instructional, what is instructional?
It's books you read, it could be,
I'm just saying, as stewards of the taxpayers' funds for academics, that does not make us the experts about the books and stuff that they're gonna buy and all the other educational items. I have to leave that in the hands of the professionals for that. I just need an accounting of it, which is what you said you.
Right, we'll get a report every month, but I don't think they have to wait on us to okay it.
Exactly, right, exactly.
And that's
No
in place,
point.
actually.
I mean, we just get a report every month of what they've done,
Right.
but
And you're saying academically, is what you're saying?
right, when it comes to instructional.
academic themes, not personnel.
Right.
Personnel's instruction.
Yeah.
So would that mean you're thinking to modify that by statement in here?
Yeah, basically,
Can I look at that?
y'all approve the budget. We come together and we allocate the money back to the schools based off of what they earn, okay? Then, let's take David, for example. He sits down with his leadership team, he creates his school improvement plan based off of the strategic plan. He breaks it down, though, in specific need areas based off of what the needs assessment says from his people. So therefore, that becomes exactly what Mr. Juan is saying. It's instructional-based material. Anything he purchases based off of that has to be directly allocated back inside of that school improvement plan. So it's all a running record. It's constantly moving of what they're doing, and they might change. So if they were to buy the IXL that Ben talked about program, that program might be just specific for high school. Well, that program might be $40,000. But that's an instructional-based item, is the way it's classified. So what Mr. Juan is saying is, why can't we waive that based off of the factor that it is an approval based off of already being approved by y'all? We're just reallocating the money based off of instruction, not to go out and buy a tractor or a truck for your school. Instruction. And that's kind of where I was at with this whole thing, is separating it so that we can do what we need to do that doesn't hold up there. The difference is when you talk about instruction, you talk about certain pieces of technology now, because we have switched to that instructional technology platform.
But the board will be informed at the following meeting that
When-
this was done.
Exactly. When have you never been informed I've never purchased a capital outlay item without ever coming to you or anything else based off of that. And it will all be disclosed every month based on that.
So, that's not what you're saying fit this current policy, because we're not talking about instruction requiring board approval. So board approval has 6 items in there, it doesn't say anything about instruction.
That's correct. That's right. I think the only thing was the $100,000.
And that has to be bid out anyway.
Yes.
Because it is above the threshold of $100,000, they will have to have an RFP.
Right.
So it would have to come back to you anyway, because it'd be a huge contract.
So it should be okay.
What I'm thinking, I just want everybody to understand where we were going and what we were doing.
If we do the first read, and then we do the second read, and then it's policy, and have a problem with it, can we change it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. All right, anything else? All right, those in favor of the first read of policy DJEA, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve, ratify the prior approval of the purchase order to CDW. And that was $26,215.49 for mobile carts, high school, be paid out of CARES 2 money. Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. All right, any reports from GSBA Winter Conference?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As many of you know, we did go to our GSBA conference. Many of us actually made the trip to Atlanta, and some of us did it virtually. I just want, when we spend that kind of money, I just want to make sure that the public is aware that we did get something out of it. So I just, if you don't mind, I want to share just a few notes with you. I attended, of course, the legal workshop. There was much discussion about the First Amendment and the freedom of speech issues for students, for teachers, during the public participation area. Basically, some guidance on what the Board of Education can and cannot control, and the possible financial consequences of people filing suits and us having to fight lawsuits, and how costly that could be. While it's very clear that the Board of Education can control on campus and during school events, the gray area is off campus, after hours, and conduct outside of school, such as social media and the posts that our children love to do, and our teachers. But unless there is a nexus, clear proof that the comments that they made have a direct connection with the school and cause a disruption in our school, there's not a whole lot that we can do about that. But as far as public participation at board meetings, a lot was thrown on the lap of the chairman. Decisions about how long a group can discuss the same subject matter and how many people can speak on the same subject matter is going to be left up to the discretion of the chairman. And that's some good and bad in that, but we can set some standards of decorum. We've been advised to set a set of standards of decorum for our audience, since many boards, believe it or not, have been dealing with very emotionally charged people, confronting boards on a variety of subjects, everything from vaccination mandates, mask wearing, banning controversial books from our reading list and our media center, to the unfounded concerns of adding critical race theory to the district's curriculum. We have been advised as a board to keep our eye on the prize, which is educating students, review our board policies, and to utilize our attorney ahead of potential issues. We also heard, you guys, from Governor Kemp. He was there. He promised to return, he's in favor of, I guess I should say, of returning our retired teachers back to full-time without being penalized during their retirement, which is, we want them back in the needed areas. That's very important. If y'all have an opportunity to speak out on that, please tell them we need our retired teachers back. Don't punish them for coming back and sharing their expertise with our students. They're going to increase mental health counselors, which I'm very happy about. And he's going to fulfill his promise of teacher raises that remained in $2,000. But I hear y'all yelling. We had a keynote speaker, and I believe you were present at that meeting as well. The focus was on reading and writing. You guys, it was recommended that we might want to host some workshops for students and parents that help our students succeed, that there's some strategies that we can share with our parents that would make it much easier. It would almost convert public education almost to private school, because if we could get parent involvement and making sure that their children are successful, that would go a long way. Of course, I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but what you said about producing their own stories, we heard from a student advisory council for the Georgia School Board Association, and it almost broke our hearts, but they said they don't want to read what we want them to read. They want to choose their own books, and they want to write their own stories. These kids are now producers. They're doing video productions and everything else. They want to show us what they have learned. And that creativity that you spoke of is going to be a big thing. So I just want to make sure that you know they want us to build a little fun in it, unstructured learning, what they call play and learn. I particularly enjoyed listening to the Georgia School Board Association's Advisory Student Council. I hope that we may consider ourselves as getting one to talk to us as board members. I simply am out of touch with this new generation. And hearing their perspective on not only how we are delivering education services to them versus how they want us to meet their needs. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that ends my report.
Also, I guess, I think we really highlighted, like writing, their creativity as well. That's one thing, because just by showcasing, everybody likes to work in the city. And really emphasize that he is trying to do more to highlight, their work, as a community involved type project, whatever it is. So that way, that would encourage them to express themselves even more so than other people watching.
Well, so it sounds like our curriculum, that we're moving in the right direction, because that's what they're talking about nationwide. And of course, these students were all over from the state of Georgia that is still representing that advisory. So I feel really good whenever I read a report that we're heading in that direction.
And I hope that we're not, and echo Ms. Shirley a lot with that, I hope we're not here again just talking about what we've learned from this conference and not willing to implement it. I would love for us to move forward to a student advisory to the board. Me and Mr. Sims has talked about that some with high school students, but I think we need to hear from each of our students. And these students were very candid. I mean, we need to be able to allow our students to have that voice. Too many times I think students and staff alike feel like their voice can't be heard because of reprimanding or trouble, but we need to allow people to speak out, because I also heard that legal thing, you can't allow people to speak good about everything but hush the negativity. You got to hear both sides of it. That's the law, right? So lots of good stuff there. And about the social media thing, I learned a lot about this. Going to that, I really did. But the social media thing, and a lot of that gets brought to our attention. But unless it affects school, I mean, it's free speech. I mean, and I'm telling you, it's hate, it's racism. I mean, but like I told a friend the other day, hate comes in all shapes, sizes, and colors. But guess what? We personally don't have to choose to be that way. But the way we counteract that, though, is the way that we respond, the way that we love each other. And at the end of the day, that's how we got to overcome that, is the way we love each other.
I do want to point out that I believe it was Rockdale County, but don't hold me to that, but they had to pay $100,000 in legal fees. So we want to make sure we stay connected with our attorney, that she's with us, fighting ahead of these items and these issues when they come about. Because a small little thing can turn into a major catastrophe, but will respond in the wrong way to social media posts.
And we want to pray for our principals, because they're our first line of defense on that. A lot of times they hear the stuff, so we want to pray that they have the wisdom to know how to handle that.
Leading to what y'all are talking about, the next item is to set a meeting for our work session. We've got some agenda items that we've heard there, that we've heard tonight, and which I'm not written down, that we'll have a good full range of things to talk about. I did attended in Atlanta. It was good to be back in a personal conference where you can meet and greet and talk to folks that are dealing with issues that you're dealing with, and including those kind of contacts. And there was a large crowd there. And one thing I saw did hear Malcolm Mitchell, and if we get an opportunity to secure him, we need to get that young man. He was in the area probably about 4 years ago, and I think went to Tipton, Irwin maybe or something. We missed him at the time, but we need to get him. He'll make a good contact.
Our administrators will hear him this summer at our administrative retreat with RESA.
Okay. On Friday was awards breakfast, and there were some new awards called Leading Edge Awards. And I was not familiar with them, but I sat there and listened to them. There were about 6 or 7 categories that you could apply. I hadn't read up on it. I'm sitting there listening to the winners and what they did. We could have walked off with the things that we have done.
Yes.
The things we've already done. And so it made me feel good. Somebody won an award for something that we did twice as much. So,
And Mr. Chairman, too, I would like to see our kids, Brandon and that, to let our kids participate in that video contest that they have, that they offer to the children all over. And our kids, they do this so good. It's just a little video intro, and it's like they win first, second, third place, and it brings a little money to the system, plus some recognition to the system. I know our kids do. Our kids don't rock that.
Our video audio.
We do that. Any other?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
If we could revert back, I believe Mr. Smith has the report that you were looking for.
So y'all, this is the report through, if we look at the title of this document is through November. That is accurate. What's inaccurate is I used this September report to create this and did not update the name here. So even though this says September 21, this is actually through November 21. I can go back and update that heading on this, but the title of the entry is accurate, and this does reflect the current through November, the end of November.
So the information is right, it's just a title.
That's correct. Now it is.
So let us see the screen. There you go. So that goes back in line with what one was saying.
Right. So now these numbers should be, they should align with the historical account. Make sense.
Is that now on our, attached to our agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And like I said, and I can go back and change that. It's just a simple little change from September to November.
Okay, yeah, if you'll do that for the minutes, so we'll have
With all that stuff, is that the 3 million account?
Yes, that's what you approved.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. We just did it. The confusing part was we didn't have any purchases for the month of October. And, so we didn't want to put a report out based on it.
So 1.79.
Yep.
Are we good with that? Information? And you'll correct at the top.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Moving into upcoming events, we need to set a winter work session date. Sometime in January.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if we could revisit that in January, because with the new school coming on, there might be some things that we need to talk about with the work session that would come into play, that we could contact you on telephone and set that up. I hate to set the date now and then turn around and make it much earlier than what you anticipate.
Are we thinking about a time in January or February, February, or December?
Not in December, but I'm assuring you, there will definitely be one in January and probably one in February, if not two within those months. As we get closer to the ending of this major project, there's going to be a lot to discuss, to make you aware of, and schedules that we need to make you aware of.
All right. Everybody good with that? 18? We have a regular meeting January 11th, and that will be at the board office, central office. And we have whole board training scheduled at RESA, January 27th, and we can talk more about that in January. Don't forget the parade tomorrow night.
And Thursday night, the third Thursday downtown is our visual arts. The arts program at the high school will be in the
Carnegie Center.
at the Carnegie
5 to
Center
7.
from 5 to 7. So y'all go see some of our.
They got some awesome work.
It's amazing what they're able to do. So y'all check that out.
Yeah, we took a tour of the high school last night and looked at a art room, probably about this size.
A little bit small.
And 3 years ago, we didn't even have an art program.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we have a resignation. Need to entertain a motion to approve the resignation of Corey Hogan. Have a second? Motion second, any discussion?
I think we owe it to Chief Hope to say that we let a good man get away with us for whatever purposes, whatever reasons. I don't know if many people know it, but I believe that our JROTC program is on the way out. If we're not careful, we'll lose it. And we've let a good man go. Really have, and I appreciate all that Chief Hope has done.
And that's it. All those in favor of approving the resignation, signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. We have one personnel transfer, Ms. Amy Tucker. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Motion carries. All right, the 2022 superintendent evaluation instrument, we received that last night, and we'll be looking at a work session to discuss that action later on. Now we need to go into executive session for a matter of potential litigation. So I'll make a motion to do that. For a second. Motion second, discussion. All those in favor, please raise your hand.